Good afternoon, everyone. You're listening to The Real Estate Show. I'm your host, Terry Kilakos, chartered real estate and mortgage broker, as well as president and founder of Northeast Real Estate and Mortgage Agency. And today we are demystifying mortgage payment deferrals. This has been a hot topic over the last couple of weeks. Obviously, with good reason. People are curious. They want to know how they can actually save mortgage payments. So we're going to be talking about that today. Today, my co-host Merav Marciano will not be joining me in studio. I'm solo here, but she's actually on the phone with us. She should be on there. Merav, are you there?
Hey, I'm here.
See, this is for Lauren again, right? And a bunch of other people that are saying we love Merav. So I'm getting a whole bunch of text in here.
Thank you. We have no choice. We're in a bit of a bind here with this coronavirus, but what are we going to do?
Please feel free to join the conversation by calling in with your questions at 514-790-0800 or texting in to 514-800. You can also watch us and comment on Facebook Live at facebook.com/Northeast Mortgages or /Terry Kilakos. Which is where this is airing right now, live. And be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't done so already, which is newsonthego.ca. So all the fun stuff that we do here at the radio station lives on the channel, and it's there for you to look at anytime that you want. It's a time capsule, Merav. So before we kick off the show, let's do a little bit of a market update. What are we looking at when it comes to the March real estate market, Merav?
Well, a lot of articles came out this week. Real estate is freezing. Everything is dropping. We're bracing for a 30% drop. Of course, there's going to be a drop in the number of sales. There hasn't been visits. There hasn't been open houses. There hasn't been a lot of listings that are up. Of course, we're going to see a drop in March this year versus March of last year. But let's not scare the public with, your house is going to drop in value by 30%. That's not the case. It's going to be a little bit of a freeze in the sense of number of transactions. But they expect that once this is all over, and especially once the employment situation is back up, we're going to see a big surge. But of course, it's probably going to be in the fall. So our entire season is basically at a standstill right now. Well, there's a lot of economists that have been talking about the fact that it's mostly based on the fact that so many people are unemployed and their cash reserves are being drained, whether it's their down payment, whether it's work stability. So it's obviously affecting qualification. Once all of that is over, then we're expecting to go back to normal. But of course, when will that be? That's always the unknown. So let's not be afraid that the house that we put an offer on and we're going to notary is a less value now because of coronavirus. It's not that it's worth less. It might have a little bit of a slowdown and it might affect the value a little bit for the next few months, but it'll pick up fairly quickly, once all of this is over. What are you seeing on your side, Terry?
It's the same thing. I mean, people that had mortgages, they're still going and getting their mortgages, and the refis are happening normally, just like they had been doing them before. I mean, everything is kind of business as usual, with the exception that the office is closed and we're doing everything remotely right now, right? Yeah. So it really is. I've always said you have to be really careful with what you read in the media. Newspapers, and blogs and stuff like that. They're designed to to sell papers. It's designed to drive people towards a certain place. So we saw something this morning, you and I, right, where they were talking about how big title, there's a drop of 30% in the Canadian real estate market. No. Yep. There is a drop in sales by 30%. Yeah. It's not a drop in prices, but people are looking at that and they're saying, prices of houses are dropping, and all of a sudden they're freaking out, Yeah,
and just so you know, it's city by city. Vancouver is still putting up a lot of listings.
Yeah.
Of course, it's less than it's supposed to be, but I mean, they're still putting up listings. So we have to remember it's not the value of the home that's going to drop by 30%. It's the number of transactions that are going to drop. And that's normal. There's less closings. There's less visits. There's less open houses. There's less listings going up. So, of course, that's going to drop. With respect to values of homes, it might affect it a little bit in the sense of, certain people are going to want to sell their home for emergency purposes, and it might skew the whole market. But we will pick up fairly quickly from that.
Absolutely. And more in the news, the federal government has received over 1.5 million applications for employment insurance this week alone, or over the last little while. I think you're the one that pulled up that stat. It's over how long? From the beginning, I guess, right?
Since they opened up, yep. It's from the beginning. Already 1.5 million unemployment applications, and they assume now that once the new programs are going to open up, there's going to be another slew going in. Which
is what we just heard about right before our show started. The federal government is opening up the applications for the Canada Emergency Response Benefit on Monday, April 6th. So they're expecting millions of applications on that day as well. Luckily, the government, they said that they put in measures to, help the website, beef it up a little bit maybe. So it doesn't come crashing down. I know that there's a lot of people that tried to apply for EI and they couldn't because they couldn't get through, correct? I mean, we've had people calling us at the office about this.
Yeah, and we know for a fact people stayed on hold for hours at a time. And same thing with My CRA code, because you do need the My CRA code to apply for the emergency benefit. It takes, you have to stay on hold to get that over the phone. Otherwise, you have to wait for them to deliver it to you by mail 10 business days.
Interesting. Some good news. Notaries have the possibility of doing signings electronically now. After the break, we're going to actually be chatting with a notary who will explain how this new process works. It's going to be Maître Laurence Akoka. She's going to join us after the 1:15 traffic. But before we go into that, Merav, I just want you to kind of go over how we're doing our operations at Northeast right now, just so that people know that they could still call us. We could still do mortgages. It's kind of business as usual.
Yes, absolutely. So it is business as usual in one sense. Yes, we're still taking a lot of applications. Our phone lines are all internet-based, so we're picking up the phones. All our applications are on. Our banking systems are all online. Our signatures, we set up electronic signatures. Everything is done virtually. Our entire process has been computerized and turned into an online, easy process. Although our doors are closed, our office is fully operational. Our employees are working. So definitely, if anybody needs any kind of assistance with respect to refinancing or even just questions about their mortgage in general, we are here for our clients. It's very important we're there for them during this time.
Stay tuned. When we come back, we're going to be looking at the mechanism behind mortgage payment deferrals. As well, we're going to be talking to Maître Laurence Akoka, who's going to talk to us a little bit about how the government has loosened up things for notaries a little bit.
You're listening to The Real Estate Show with your real estate and mortgaging team, Terry Kilakos and Merav Marciano on CJAD 800.
You're listening to The Real Estate Show, and today we are demystifying mortgage payment deferrals. Feel free to call in with your questions at 514-790-0800 or text into 514-800 in order to join the conversation. We actually have a few texts and callers that are coming in, but right now we have Laurence Akoka, Maître Laurence Akoka, on the line with us to talk to us a little bit about what has changed over the last little while with notarial transactions. Hi, Laurence.
Hi, Terry. How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm doing good.
Good. So talk to me. What's going on?
Well, a lot of changes, good changes for notaries. So since we now are an essential service and due to the urgency, I guess, of the situation, the Notary Board put in place new norms for us. So we have new procedures to respect. So we can now meet clients remotely through new programs. And so we have different ways of doing it. And so how it works is that we installed a new program. We have the Microsoft Teams, which will be able to meet clients through video conference. So the idea is we need to hear them and we need to see them.
Interesting.
Each party, by your vendor, where somebody wants to do a will or a mandate, it'll apply for everything. But obviously, the client has to have those needs. He has to have a computer. He has to have a camera. So we do need to see them and hear them, and same thing for them.
Interesting.
So that's the first thing. And we need this other program, which is Consigno. So Consigno Cloud is where we'll be able to put those confidential documents and send them to the client securely. And the client will be able to sign remotely through an electronic signature with this program. So he doesn't have to have this Consigno. It's only the notary that has to have it. We send it through personalized email. So it's a great, great new idea for clients and the notaries to be able to work remotely. Everyone wants to refinance. Banks are still open. So, like you said, business as usual, and notaries are part of that right now.
Yeah, I found it very strange that notaries weren't on the list of essential services, when
in the beginning.
In the beginning. I found it very, very bizarre, but I'm glad that they changed that. I mean, obviously, besides real estate and mortgage transactions, I mean, notaries do so much more, including wills, including mandates, including things that are needed in this time right now.
And especially the fact that the banks are open. So I have so many banks calling me.
Yeah.
When one knows that I'm opened, then every other bank calls, and everybody still has their clients. So yes, we are an important part of this society.
Yeah, I noticed there was a couple of I actually passed by a notary's office this week to pick up a check for one of the brokers, and I noticed that they actually had installed shields like all over in the conference rooms and the reception.
I did too.
You did
Friday.
too. Oh, fantastic. Okay.
So there will be not everyone has a computer or a camera or all those procedures that we will need. So for older people, that's what I did. On Friday, I had somebody coming in to fabricate with the 2x4s and the glass windows. So I kept the distance of 2 meters. I did it all. So I'll be able to work through either meeting clients in my office, respecting the rules, that the government wants, or doing it remotely.
Very interesting. There's a text that actually came in, which I think is right up your alley here. All online. How do you do a major mortgage transaction online without ever having met the person face to face? Wouldn't that pose some type of risk?
Absolutely. It's a very good question. So how it works is that's why we need to see them through the video conference, through Microsoft Teams, and the client will be able to send us his pieces of identity in advance. And during our meeting, he also has to show us his ID. So that's how we will be able to identify them. So there are a lot of procedures that we have. We have at least 20 pages of instructions and directive lines that the board gave us that we need to follow through. I can't just do a FaceTime with the client. That's not secure enough. That's why Team was put into place and not even Zoom. Everybody's using Zoom now. We can't even use that because it's not secure enough. So yes, we do have to be very careful. There's a big risk for fraud right now, especially if we do this through remotely. So it's a very good question, but we have all the right means to be able to do it properly.
Did you find that banks are, because, we've talked about title insurance in the past, how, it actually protects lenders, it protects against fraud. Do you see an increase right now of people needing to take title insurance? Are the banks imposing it more?
No, not yet, but again, it's still new. However, we did get an email on Friday from some of the insurance title companies telling us that they do insure against fraud. Even if that's the new procedure, they will still insure against fraud. Usually it's too risky, so they don't insure, but they still send us an email saying that they will, which is great for us and for the banks.
Interesting. Laurence, thank you very much. If somebody wants to get a hold of you, how can they reach you?
So my office is at 665 Décarie. It's in Saint-Laurent, and my phone number is 514-748-6539. So I'll be glad to help them.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Laurence, for joining us. Absolutely.
Take care.
You too. Take care.
Be safe.
Be safe. We have a bunch of texts that came in, a couple of which I'm not going to actually read because they're referring to my Q10 cream, but we'll skip those ones. There is someone that asks, would you suggest still selling in this market? We were scheduled to build a new house, but now have no idea when we will even break ground. Scary to move. I agree. I mean, there is a lot of uncertainty in this market. Do I suggest selling? Obviously, if you have somewhere to go, then put your house on the market and sell it. But if you don't have a place to go, in other words, if you haven't broken ground and you still have no idea when you might even be thinking about breaking ground, well, then you maybe put off selling your house. I've actually seen, forget about, COVID-19 market or anything like that. I've actually seen people break ground on a property, start construction, say, hey, we're going to sell our house. The developer says, your house is going to be ready on this date. And then all of a sudden, for one reason or another, because of strikes, because of this, because of that, all of a sudden the house is not ready on that specific date. And now the people have to move out of their house because they've sold it, and they have to go live with family. They have to go live with friends. They have to go live in a hotel until the house is ready. And luckily, in some cases, it's ready in 2 or 3 weeks. I've seen a house actually in my neighborhood where the house was under construction for over 6 months after the people had sold. So you got to make sure that when you're building, when you're selling and you're building something, you need to make sure that you time things properly. Otherwise, you can end up in a situation where you're going to be, quote unquote, I don't like to use this term, but you can be homeless. We have a slew of texts that have come in. We're going to get to them after the break. But for now, you're listening to The Real Estate Show. And today, we're demystifying mortgage payment deferrals. Don't forget, you can join us on the conversation at 514-790-0800, or you can text into 514-800. Coming up, we're going to also be looking about payment holidays and whether or not it actually makes sense to do it.
You're listening to The Real Estate Show with your real estate and mortgaging team, Terry Kilakos and Merav Marciano on CJAD 800.
Thanks for joining us on The Real Estate Show, and today we're talking about mortgage payment holidays. We'd love to hear what our listeners have to say about the subject. You can call in to 514-790-0800 or text in at 514-800 to let us know your thoughts on this matter. Just as we had Vince on the line who has a comment to make, actually. Hey, Vince, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Excellent. I talked to you a little bit during the break. This is Vince. Sorry, I can never pronounce your name properly. Go ahead, introduce yourself because I'm going to butcher it.
Vince Faustini.
Vince Faustini from
Equitable Bank.
There we go. Talk to me, my friend. Equitable Bank is, of course, one of the banks that Northeast deals with. And Vince was coming home and he was listening to our show, just as he always does, right?
Absolutely.
And he had a comment to make, so please go ahead.
Well, I think it's great that you're touching on this. It's quite apropos and timely. I mean, definitely, this is a situation that is, never been lived before. On our end, I mean, and I specifically deal on the commercial side. And I got to say, the one thing, there's a lot of positive things happening here. Everybody is working diligently on addressing these requests, these payment deferral requests. And I got to tell you, not just Equitable, but all of the banks are quite overwhelmed. So I think patience is warranted here by everybody. I mean, sometimes even getting through the lines is difficult.
Yeah.
But I have to say, on the borrower side, the one thing that I also would want to relay to people, there's always going to be some sort of abuse. If you don't need it, and I'm speaking specifically on the commercial side, I mean, we're getting requests from people that you would never expect. And I do understand the fact that people are trying to preserve cash and trying to, foresee the unforeseeable. But I think you got to think a little bit ahead because this could hurt the brand going forward.
Yeah.
When you're pushing your banker to try to stretch a little bit and get to the last dollar on the premise that they're a very strong borrower and will never let them down. I mean, I've had people calling, the very first couple of days after this was coming up and saying they'd like to forego their April payments. And, it's uncalled for. And frankly, I think people should be a little bit wiser in making some of those decisions. Leave it for those who really need it.
Yeah, and it's one of the things that we've actually talked about before on the show, Vince, where we've said, the government, they put in all these measures, and I find that our government is doing a great job when you look at, the federal and the provincial side, whether I don't necessarily agree with all their politics, as people know when they listen to my show. But the one thing I got to do is I got to take my hat off to them for what they've been doing over the last little while. But I do find that sometimes they speak before they actually they speak to the public before they actually go and they speak to the banks. Right. And, they talked about, payment holidays, and they talked about this and they talked about that. And all of a sudden people were calling their banks to get payment holidays, and the banks were not ready for it yet. And they were going, whoa, hold on a second here. And
you're absolutely right. But, there are a number of conversations going on in the background, with the OSFI and the regulators, because it's a monumental task to get this, to make sure the banks are not offside by putting off these holidays. And I think everybody's doing the right things. It's just going to take some time. People should really reach out to some of those programs that are being made available by the governments and the various agencies, which are also quite overwhelmed. But it's going to take some money for that, some time for that money to start flowing. But let's give it some patience. I think everybody's trying to do the best they can, and as you say, governments are doing a great job. But the banks are in constant conversation with the government and the various agencies. To make sure the funds are flowing.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Vince. I appreciate you calling in.
Thank you. Great job.
Thank you. That was Vince Faustini from Equitable Bank. Please feel free, if you want to join the conversation, you can call in to 514-790-0800, or of course you can text in to 514-800 to share your experience with whether it's dealing with a notary electronically or doing any type of mortgage transaction. Excuse me. Could you, we have a text actually that just came in from Trevor. Could you please clarify mortgage deferrals from CIBC? They claim that they will have large penalties. They are not modifying renewal dates or amortizations. Thank you, Trevor. Yes, this is correct, Trevor. So let's talk about penalties. First of all, when we're talking about mortgage deferrals, the payment doesn't just disappear. You need to understand that. The payment gets deferred, which means that it'll get deferred to, if you skip 1 month, it'll get deferred and broken up into different payments later on. If you defer 6 months, well, you have that much more to catch up, plus the interest on that. So it's very important that when you take the decision to do a mortgage deferral, it has to make sense. The government has not stepped in and said, hey, you know what? We're forgiving these payment holidays for the next 6 months, which is a lot of people. That's what they believe. And if I actually look at my notes here, one of the notes that I had was, can I just stop paying my mortgage for the next 3 to 6 months? Because this is something that has come up. People have called our office and said, I've decided for the next 3 months, I'm not going to pay my mortgage. You can't do that. Right? You do understand that you need to have some sort of a holiday period that is granted to you by the bank. Not only that, but your mortgage itself has to be in good standing. So you can't already be in default on your mortgage and then call the bank and say, hey, you know what? I want a payment holiday now. Right? We have another text in from online, actually, from Neil, who's asking, how does mortgage deferral affect one's credit rating? It's not supposed to. If you do it properly, it's not supposed to actually affect your credit rating. It's basically part of a part of the normal process. So a lot of banks, what they're going to do is they're going to just keep reporting positively because your agreement with them is moving along the way that you're agreeing with it. Okay. We have another text online from Loverly, who is asking, what is your opinion on condo pre-construction investment in Montreal? Would you put money in the development or hold off? Well, you know what? I'm not a huge fan of the condo market in general, so Yeah, I think you're going to know where I'm going to be going with this. I think definitely over the next couple of weeks until everything kind of starts to go back to normal, I don't think you should be running to put money in pre-constructions. How do I think that the market is going to react after this, which actually is going to line up with what Frank is asking. Frank is actually asking whether or not home prices are going to drop. So what we're expecting to see is we're expecting to see a slow spring season, right? Which means that there is going to be a decrease in the amount of sales, in the amount of transactions that are going to be occurring. But that also means that there is going to be a decrease in the amount of listings that are going to be going up. So when this is all over, things should start going back to normal. People should be getting rehired by their employers. And once everything starts flowing and gets back to normal and people are able now all of a sudden, to start making offers, what you're going to end up seeing is there's going to be a lack of inventory because people are not listing their homes right now. And because people are not listing their homes, well, supply and demand, right? If the demand is high and the supply is low, what happens? The price will go up. If the demand is high and the supply is high, well, you end up having more of a balanced type of a market. But if all of a sudden the supply is really high, which we're not seeing right now, people are not listing. If the supply is high and the demand is low, all of a sudden you start seeing prices dropping again. Okay, so it's very, very important that when you look at this, and you have to, I don't think that people should necessarily be avoiding putting money on pre-constructions, but at least, for the next couple of weeks until we see, until we hit that peak and we start going downhill again on this whole crisis, I think that people, people that are putting money in pre-constructions, you shouldn't necessarily be rushing to it. If you're a developer actually listening, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. I've actually worked with a couple of developers over the last little while just to see if they would actually be able to jump in on one of these calls, and they've actually not wanted to come on with me. I don't know why. Wonder. But anyways, we'll see. Time will tell. But I think that for pre-construction, I don't think you should be rushing. So stay tuned for more talk about the pros and cons of mortgage deferrals. You're listening to The Real Estate Show on CJAD 800.
You're listening to The Real Estate Show with your real estate and mortgaging team, Terry Kilakos and Merav Marciano on CJAD 800.
Thanks for tuning in to The Real Estate Show. Today we're talking about mortgage payment holidays and how they could affect you. Don't forget you can join the conversation by calling into 514-790-0800 or texting into 514-800. And of course, if you need to reach us at the office, you can reach us at 514-680-4674. We have a slew of texts that came in. Thank you, Terry, for giving solutions to your listeners. You're welcome. We also have another text here who is wondering until when will the banks be deferring mortgage payments? Haven't used it yet, but considering it, depending on how COVID situation goes. That's Mark from DDO. As long as this crisis is going on, they're going to be doing the deferrals. And anyways, the majority of mortgages come with the option of deferring payments, right? So you are able to make payment holidays. This is not something that normally it's 1 month that you could defer a payment, but it is a normal thing. If you feel the need to do it, just like we have another text here, do you think that it's a good idea that we actually do it, do the deferral? Only if you need it. If you don't need it, don't do it. I have a mortgage coming up on the 15th of this month on one of my rental properties. And I said, if my tenants don't pay, then I will ask for a deferral. Guess what? All of my tenants paid. So seeing as all my tenants paid their rent on the 1st, why would I do a deferral, right? We have Angie on the line who has a question about moving to a new place as of July the 1st. Hi, Angie. Angie, do we have you? Hello?
How are you?
I'm
Hi
good.
there.
How are you doing?
Well, depending on your answer, we'll see. Okay. Now, my landlord gave me notice.
Okay.
I get in December for July 1st,
Mm-hmm.
and it's been a struggle. I have dogs, and I've been trying to find a place. And
Yeah.
of course, with the situation at hand, it hasn't been easy. However, I did come across something a couple of days ago. The construction is 60 to 70% complete. He told me it will be ready in July 1st.
Okay.
And I'm on the fence about this right now, or should I wait? Will more properties pop up? Because I'm seeing more and more online.
I'm trying to understand something. So your landlord gave you notice
Yes.
to move out of your property, to move out of the
Correct.
property.
Yes.
And now, are you buying something else right now?
No, I'm
Okay.
I'm uncertain about that. I'm thinking more along the lines of renting something for the time being.
Okay. Did he give you notice to move out because he's moving into it, or
He wants to sell the property.
okay, but why would he? Does he have an offer on it?
No.
Okay. Why would he get you to go because he's selling it?
Well, I mean, everyone needs funds right now, and I get it. It's fine. I mean,
Yeah.
it's fine. It's okay. I mean, I'm not. You know, I understand the situation that he's in, so
Okay.
it's okay.
Okay. So now it's just a matter of you trying to find a place and,
Correct.
Okay. I don't think you're going to have a, the rental market right now is very, very, there's not a lot of inventory. I mean, I literally, I have rental units, and the minute I put a sign outside,
Exactly.
I don't have time to go inside the car. The property's rented already. It's a very, it's a landlord's market, let's just say. But did you ever think about looking to buy a property, or you were talking about the construction? What are you referring to?
Well, it's a 6-unit condo that
Okay.
they're putting up, and they've already 4 of the units have been rented,
Okay.
and he has 2 units left. And he told me that,
You can.
I mean, no one has moved in yet. Everything will be ready as of July 1st or the end of, June for everyone to move in.
Okay. I would, Angie, my best advice that I can give you, this is a conversation that you can have with your landlord, and you could say, look, I'm going to do everything that I possibly can to move out on the 1st of July. However, because it doesn't seem like he's pressed for you to go on the 1st of July.
Exactly. And he did say, if you need a little bit more of a grace period, it's
That's
fine.
right. Yeah.
Yes.
And you have to remember, your landlord can't force you out of your property just because he's selling it. You know what I mean? This is the reality of the market that we're in right now in Quebec. In Quebec, we have the Régie de Logement. Mind you, they're closed right now, but
he's been more than fair, so I really
Okay.
cannot complain.
Okay, so you don't mind going, basically. Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
it's fine. I mean, we all need to do what we have to do, and everyone's
Okay.
and desperate for money right now. So I get it.
Yeah, I would honestly, Angie, I would have a conversation with him and just basically say, look, I haven't been able to find a place. I don't mind going on a month by month, and stay until August or September until you find a place. Okay.
Okay, fabulous. Thanks for your time, Terry.
Absolutely, Angie. Have a great day. And actually, oddly enough, as we were talking, there was a text that came in. Her landlord cannot force her out if he is selling. It's true. We have a slew of texts actually coming in, just a matter of finding the right one here. Do you think it's a good idea to take advantage of the mortgage payment holiday in order to be able to hold on to one's liquidity a little longer? Again, only if you need to. Right? If you need to take that payment holiday, do it. If you don't need to take a payment holiday, don't do it, because otherwise you could be lining yourself up for something a little bit more dangerous down the line, where all of a sudden, when you take a holiday, that payment, you have to pay it back, and interest. Now you're paying interest upon interest. Right? So you just have to be careful about that. We have a text online here from Franco. Do you think that the present situation might have an impact on people's perception with buying real estate and carrying mortgage debt? Actually, I found that the opposite has occurred. So people that were against buying real estate for investment purposes now are running towards us saying, we want to buy real estate. They saw their money take a nosedive in the stock market, right? Don't forget, the prices of real estate have not dropped right now. Home prices are still at the same price that they were 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, a month ago, right? What you're not getting right now is you're not getting that multiple offer situation. You're not getting the same amount of people making offers on properties, but properties are still selling and the market is actually still holding strong. So what we've seen is people flooding the market now, coming in, especially people running away from the investment world, so the stock markets, and they're coming back and they're saying, let's put our money in real estate because it's a lot more stable type of investment. Don't forget, the difference between the stock market and real estate is that real estate is one of these types of investments that it's not liquid. In other words, you're not able to sell it quickly, right? So because you're not able to sell it quickly, it takes the emotion out of things. Stock market, it's, you see the price of, your shares dropping. It's a matter of pressing a button. All of a sudden, your portfolio is liquidated and you've just realized your loss, right? So because you've realized that loss, now it's become real. Most people, when they actually hold on to their investments in the stock market, even in a down market, it'll eventually go up, right? Well, it's the same thing with real estate, except real estate, it's not as quick. If it was as quick, we would have seen a drop in real estate right now, but we haven't. The other thing that we've seen is I've actually seen people coming, the ones that were actually looking at paying off their houses as fast as they possibly can. Now they've come back and they're saying, hey, you know what? I want to remortgage, take money out so that I can get liquid, get some cash in. And now they take that money from the refi and they invest it either in other real estate or they dump it back into the markets, right? So they're dumping it into the stock market. They're dumping it in vehicles that have dropped in price. I heard a great quote this morning by Warren Buffett, and I have to, it's an Instagram quote, so I'm not sure 100% if it was Warren Buffett that said it, although it did say that it was him. Basically, it said in a time of crisis, the stock market becomes an instrument to transfer money from the impatient people to the patient people, right? So it's very, 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 very important that in a time of crisis, now's the time to basically take inventory of what's going on, see what's happening, and then from there, make your decisions properly. Otherwise, you're going to end up in a situation where you're going to be liquidating things when you shouldn't be liquidating. I've always said, when you see people going in a certain direction, that's when you change and you basically go completely in the other direction. Otherwise, you're going to find yourself in a situation where you're going to sell too quickly, whether it's an investment in the stock market, a mutual fund, or anything like that, and you're going to take a hit. And it's the same thing that happens on the real estate side. If you sell too quickly because you get scared, you get spooked, you're going to have people like myself who are going to get in there and they're going to buy out that property and then make money in the long run. I've seen it time and time again, whether it's crisis that's occurred, whether we're talking about referendums that were happening in Quebec or anything like that. All of a sudden you see the price of real estate dropping, and the people that are liquid, the real estate investors, are the ones that are actually taking action and making the move. Guys, we've run out of real estate. You're listening to The Real Estate Show on CJAD 800. If you want to reach us, you can call us at 514-680-4674, or you can visit us online at northeastmortgages.ca. Guys, till a couple of weeks from now, because we're off for the Passover and the Easter holidays, I wish you guys good holidays. Love you all. Be safe.